Hello, and welcome to another episode of me playing Crusader Kings 3 using the hardest possible rule set, starting as a custom character in China in 1066. One of the things I talked about in our first series, playing as the Duke of Bohemia, is that my personal win condition is that when I am indisputably the most powerful ruler in all the world, I consider the game to be won. There's no longer any challenge for me, and because the challenge of this rule set is what appeals to me, I decide it's time to declare victory and move on to the next campaign. I think here we have likely achieved that. Um, our main concern, really throughout the entire course of this game, has been this massive Hindustan empire. It started with the Ghaznavid house, who I believe started in this area of the map. Notably, they're the only dynasty that starts with a scourge conqueror at the beginning of the game in 1066. And so when you play with this rule set, or scourge conquerors generally, in 1066, you'll see that the Ghaznavids often form a massive realm. Sometimes it collapses, sometimes like here, it just keeps growing. We've now fought this realm 3 times. The father of our current character was able to successfully defend our realm. A few episodes ago, last episode, when we were dealing with 2 revolts, we were attacked by Hindustan. We were able to wipe peace out of those revolts and then defeat Hindustan again. Right after that, we fought Hindustan yet a 3rd time to take back our kingdom of Guanay here, which Hindustan had previously taken from the Songs when they ruled China. Again, another victory. And so I think it's fair to say that, the argument previously would have been between Hindustan and us as who is the most powerful realm in the world. At this point, I think we are clearly number 1, especially since the Ghaznavids had been put together and been ruled by a scourge conqueror until very recently. Scourge conquerors lose the trait if they suffer 3 defeats in war. I know for this gentleman, we inflicted at least 2 defeats on him. Not sure if he got a 3rd defeat somewhere else, or possibly if the fact that our father defeated his father counts. But either way, you can see here he has lost the Scourge Conqueror trait. No longer appears for him. And so, if Hindustan could not beat us when they were led by a Scourge Conqueror, their chances of beating us without a Scourge Conqueror ruler are even less. I think really sort of infinitesimal at this point. And so I do think it's time to move on. Indeed, I do think Hindustan may even collapse. They're ruling a very large amount of territory, and without the unifying force of a Scourge Conqueror, I wouldn't be surprised to see this split into its constituent pieces. Having said all that, did want to play one more episode here as the Wang Di. We'll continue progressing. We'll also, if people want to see more of this, even where we are the most powerful realm, I am happy to oblige. Please feel free to leave comments onto this video. If enough people say, yes, I would like to see a continuation of this campaign, happy to do that. I'll keep the save file around in case people decide that's what they want. As for us, we are looking toward moving toward these 2 duchies here and consolidating our domain. Previously, our domain had been scattered all around a bit, a few different areas, and that was simply as a consequence of the wars to reunify China. There were some areas we took first and kept those as our bases of power as we conquered the other kingdoms necessary to seize the mandate of heaven. But now that that's all done, I would much rather be in one concentrated area. Speaking of that, I think we will start improving development. Development here is quite low, surprisingly. I probably should have checked that before coming here, but I think we'll be able to increase it quite quickly. So one of the things we're waiting on is in 5 months, this holding will come back online. We'll then move our realm capital here. we will give away this duchy and these 2 titles, and we should be very close to our domain limit. Of course, if you look at our domain limit, it may look low. That's because it is, because that's part of playing with the hardest possible rule set. We are playing with domain limit -3 for the player only. So normally we would have a domain limit of 9, but instead we have a domain limit of 6. So one thing I have been looking at is, are there areas that we could conquer? You see we just vassalized a couple of places. I think we'll look about these 2 small counties. I assume that we'll just be able to vassalize them. If not, then you can probably guess what's about to happen to them. But other than that, I've had difficulty finding good CBs on our neighboring realms. I think part of that is just playing China, that the way Paradox seems to want you to play it is, to not paint the map, not be able to conquer vast swathes of the globe. And so they put limitations on the CBs you get, most obviously not being able to wage holy wars. And so we'll just, act within our limitations. And, if we're not able to, attack people efficiently, we won't spend a lot of time in big wars for a single county or whatever. We'll just wait until we can attack Hindustan again and go from there. Here, for example, Great Liao, I had thought normally that there was a forced vassalization CB that you got, which cost a great deal of prestige but will allow you to take over the entire land. But obviously, we don't see it here. These hegemonic duchy CBs aren't really that great. I just think they give you the duchy title without necessarily giving you the counties underneath them. We can attack them county by county, but obviously that's going to take a lot of time unless there's some particular county you really want for some reason. So same thing with our other neighbors. So I think instead of fighting these tiny wars, let's do some activities and wait for our truce to end with Hindustan. I generally do not break truces in these games. Breaking a truce gives a massive penalty of -50 popular opinion. So that means your peasants, vassals, everyone is going to hate you for breaking a truce, and my perception and opinion is that's just not worth it. Instead, we can just wait, play it safe, and whenever the truce's cooldown is up, we'll attack Hindustan again. For this, I do want prestige because, again, whenever I can use that vassalization CB, it costs a lot of prestige, but I want to have the prestige to be able to use it. On the other hand, luxuries, I don't need to increase the success rate of my tour. I know it's going to be successful almost certainly, given that we're visiting 10 different vassals here. I usually just stick with justice to get control up. The AI is very bad at managing control, so by using the justice intent, we give them a bit of help. Normally I would go scientific, but we've already maxed out all the innovations for the High Middle Ages, and so until we reach the Late Middle Ages, there's not much reason to have scientific. We've had a number of genius sons, and some sons with an intelligence trait and a lower level physical trait, but what we're really looking for is a son that is a genius, and both Herculean are beautiful. If we had one of those sons, they would immediately become our presumptive heir. In the meantime, we have taken as wards our eldest 2 sons. Let's take a look at them, since we always want to be checking on our sons, and particularly influencing their personality traits so they end up with good personalities. One of the worst things you can do, and especially when you're playing on the hardest difficulty levels as we are here, but even a normal game, is just to ignore your possible heirs, let them get whatever personality traits are assigned to them. They'll often end up being terrible, and you could make yourself have a much more challenging situation on and after succession because you ignored your children. Now, again, if you're playing some sort of role-playing game and the idea is to see, well, can I manage having these children with challenging personality traits, then obviously go to it. No need to worry about your children's education. Just you'll be surprised whatever you take them over, and you can go from there. But here we're playing in a bit of a different way, where we are trying to min-max a bit because we are playing on such a high difficulty level, and so I do want my children to be as good as possible. For this character, I had my father, our previous character, be able to instill him with 3 virtuous traits. Also ended up as an exalted warlord, and so just become a very powerful character. Though, of course, as people saw last episode, despite having 3 virtuous traits, he still had 2 major rebellions he had to deal with. And so that's part of just the consequence of playing on this hardest difficulty settings, is that your vassals really like rebelling against you. Here, I'm a huge fan of monthly lifestyle experience, so I will definitely listen to him. That's a very powerful event in my book. This one, I usually just let the person eat it. You can sometimes get a tiny health penalty, which again is just tiny, but still rather not have any health penalties. Here, window taxes are rarely successful. It gives us some stress because we have a modifier from drinking tea. The stress isn't very much, but instead of worrying about it, just let them off and move on. I would like to get some gold, but obviously we have quite a bit, so it's not essential that we get gold from every single decision where it's possible. We went on a majesty tour because what I really do want is renown. You can never have enough renown. And so by going on a majesty tour, we get renown and prestige. Prestige is also good, since, again, China normally ought to have a vassalization CB on its neighbors. That cost a lot of prestige. Talked a few times about China. Daughters are heavily disfavored, so sad to say I usually just don't pay much attention to them. So I do pen my various sons here. All these are sons who are either genius or have intelligent in some other trait. Haven't really settled on which would be my heir. Since again this is probably the last episode of the series, I think we'll probably just be playing as our current character, but again, in case viewers request that I continue, do want to see if I can have a strong heir going forward. And there's always a possibility that I get murdered, or that I get killed by a plague. I say I mean this character, and we have to move on to whoever our heir is. Happy to accept the courtiers that are offered to me. So this could be interesting. I think I already have one book about warfare, but happy to get another. Thing let's look at is if I can move my capital while I'm traveling. I don't think I can. Yep, that's okay. What we do want to do is build up what's going to be our new domain, make it as powerful as possible. These places are in a little bit shabbier shape than I would have thought. Strange. But we'll build them out and make them more powerful. Some of my more recent campaigns in China have been in 1187, where the initial capital of the Tang is located in these areas, and so they're quite powerful. And when I think of reunifying China 1187, I think about owning these two duchies. And they might not be quite as good in 1066. I think we'll still be able to make something of them. So that event often leads to this negative result. So you usually I just leave it alone, but just want to try it a few times. It's not a much of a severely negative result, so it's not really a big deal either way which one you decide on that one. Again, I usually pick the choice that gives the increase to artifact quality. I almost never pick that top option because there's the risk of losing a lot of gold. To have my 20 concubines plus wife, so I can have a very large number of children as the Huangdi. This I don't like the having 64 vassals lose 20 opinion of me, so we'll just go with the middle one there. I generally veto whatever my regent is trying to do. Let's also use influence to swing the scales against him. This is one of the consequences of playing China, is you just get an enormous number of notifications about your family members either getting or not getting, not being in line for new titles. There are some times where I've literally had to pause the game and just let these notifications catch up. I had thought at one point that Paradox had changed, so there was some option to select which notifications appeared here, but I guess that's incorrect. If anyone knows if there is a way to cut down these notifications, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to hear it. Take the better hunter for the renown. I should be able to catch this young thief, but I guess I didn't. Okay. Take the prestige because as we talked about, would like to have as much prestige as possible. Of course, always want as much renown as possible. See here, only getting 2 gold for a ransom. Because we're playing on the very hard difficulty, we only get a quarter of the amount of the ransom that you would on normal, and it's rounded down. So if normally you would get 10 gold, it becomes 2.5, rounded down to 2. Here we want the favored movement to stay as the expansion movement, and so we will lose a little bit of legitimacy doing that, but that's okay. Do want to get our legitimacy all the way up to level 7 as fast as we can. See if once this tour is done, maybe we can hold another capital examination, which is a huge source of legitimacy. So both of these are generally okay. I'm just not a huge fan of generous the monthly income loss. You could probably argue that it's the better option here because you get courtly vassal opinion, you get the diplomacy. I mean, given that we're now playing as the long D, we really want to cut down on problems with our vassals. So I guess we'll go with generous, even though I generally don't really like it. I mean, our gold should be okay. I mean, if it wasn't a virtue, then I would definitely have gone with patient, which is a virtue. But it's the way things work out. We want the best traits to mollify, pacify our vassals if this person were to become our heir. And so that drove the decision toward making him generous. Send these children to examinations. You can get a small amount of down from that. Looks like the amount of stress they get depends on the amount of stress you get. And since we have modifiers that mean we don't get any stress, they don't get any stress either. Okay, this faction is just peasants, not a real faction, so don't really care. Whenever the peasants rise up, we will smash them. This one, I usually just go for the middle option. This we've seen before. This is basically invitation to get robbed. I think, because it's only 18 stress, I will decline getting robbed, and we'll move on. And there, get rid of the stress almost immediately. I guess we'll do this to avoid stress and get a little bit of popular opinion. If we were pinched for gold, then just say no. I don't think we have any skirmishers, so not much reason to go with the first one. The Warren manuscript at this point, if he wants it, he's free to have it. We have quite a few artifacts at this point. I normally just destroy gray or green artifacts, so let's see what our cultural acceptance is. I think let's go with the top one here. Cultural acceptance is useful in getting vassals in line, cutting down on rebellions. Same thing here. This to avoid stress. We get strategist. Continue on. So the options I usually look to here, either thoughtful or heart of the family, so we can get groomed to rule. Thoughtful is the conservative choice because if you have rebellions, factions, the way we did at the beginning of our reign, it's one of the most powerful perks in the game for dealing with factions, assuming you have money. And of course, even if you have only a little money, thoughtful makes that money all the more impactful. Maybe there's some very powerful vassal who has negative 10 opinion of you. If you didn't have thoughtful, maybe you give him a gift, he comes up to say plus 40 opinion. You have thoughtful, give him a gift, he comes up to plus 90 opinion, he's above the plus 80 threshold, he drops out. Having said all that, I think and hope our factions are behind us, so I will go the other way. And if our factions aren't behind us, we have a very powerful military character who will be leading a very powerful army, and we would use that to put down factions by force. We will have both of our books give us martial lifestyle at the moment. We're getting close to finishing the entire martial career. One of our genius sons died. You know, rather have him around, but unfortunate. Sometimes children is born sickly and pass away. That's a relatively good blue weapon, but not as good as our current ones. We have a couple of purples, but this gives just a very large amount of treasury budget, so we'll go with that. Just check to make sure the peasants are the only faction, and they are. Again, want the renown. Always want renown, even if there's some stress involved. Really would want to change some of these buildings and change the culture here. One of the things worth noting is that we are playing on very slow changes to culture. So, for example, that would take 49 years. I mean, unfortunately, it just isn't worth it. It takes this, incredibly long time. Even if we had a better Minister of Revenue, it's still going to take quite a while. So we'll just deal with it. Hopefully, their culture improves one way or the other. I guess we can become this guy's friend. Traveler is good. Pick that third option because there's a little bit of better percentage chances. This is, unfortunate, but we have lots of gold, so let's give some away. There's our grand tour. Also significant, there's our dynasty legacy. We'll finish out the martial tree. We get another regiment here. Kind of a question between the House Guard and the Jean-Madao infantry. I'm, just a big fan of the Jean-Madao infantry. They seem to be very effective. We could go somewhere else. We do have two. Let's make sure. I do want to have two regiments of cavalry, black armored cavalry, which we do have. We have 3 regiments of fire lancers, which I think is what we need. So I think let's just make more. Well, I guess let's go with the House Guards. Seems like for our fire lancers, maybe the whatever the court officer, the dragon lancer, whatever he's called, approved fire dragon engineer. So we got a few more of those, but again, just an extraordinarily powerful army. Could not see anyone competing with us. I think the only way we would lose is if we had a mass uprising of our own vassals. Now that I am back home, let's move the capital here. We will also move our estate here, and then we will give away this duchy to someone within our family. Someone within our family that gives us renown, needs to be with our house. There we go. So now we're just one above the domain limit, reducing our penalties. So that's all good. I assume 21 months left. Okay. We'll see about vassalizing some of these places. Let's check our tips here to see if there's anything else. Not really great options here. I mean, I guess Marauder is better than Thug, so we'll go with that. So one thing now that I look at our tips, I think I may have made this mistake in the prior series as well. When all our vassals were rebelling against us, I should have granted all the vassals their rightful liege. That would probably, assuming back at the start of this guy's reign that he had 31 vassals that could have been granted rightful liege, that would have made the vassals much happier, pacified them, and we could have avoided those rebellions. So something really to remind ourselves of going forward is when we have a succession, really need to look to see if we can grant vassals to rightful liege, because that can be a very easy way to get rid of rebellions. Here I didn't think the rebellions were going to be able to do significant damage to us, and they did not. But in the future game, that could be a different story. Let's make sure we are stationing our men-at-arms. Want to go with retinue handgunners that tend to get the most benefits from being stationed properly. Then we go with the retinue vanguard, which are probably the most powerful units. We'll go with the other fire lancers here, just looking for the biggest number, gives them the most benefit. After that, I think maybe the black armored cavalry. And then finally, one of the Jean-Medal infantry here. And there we go. We've stationed all the regiments we can, at least. We'll continue on. That's some quite good armor. Is it better than what we currently have? Yes. So we'll put it on. Just to make sure that we're only facing a peasant revolt, and we are. Assume consulting heaven does not help us. No, we want to avoid tension, not increase it. I think we talked about legends are incredibly expensive. There we go, capital examination. Certainly want to do this. Maybe let's do military strategist. Like we've done in the Site for Scholars a couple of times. Here, we're going to maximize our legitimacy, so we'll go with an open summons and extreme grading. As we talked about last episode, even though extreme grading sounds like it will eliminate a lot of entrants, it will not. Virtually everyone will pass. I think we saw last time there were like 330 entrants, and literally every single one of them passed. And by putting the higher score grade, we get more legitimacy. And again, you really want to get to max level of legitimacy as soon as you can, because then that helps with the dynastic cycle, keeping it getting the tension. Let's check our oldest children again. So we can give them. Usually like doing diligent, then temperate. Diligent just is so many stats, more than any other personality trait, 8 in total. And then temperate's very strong. It's a virtue here, as in many religions, gives A little bit of stewardship, +2, which is still strong. Gold is one of the most important things, and so even if stewardship's been nerfed a little bit, getting that extra gold for more stewardship is powerful. And it also gives a small health boost, so your characters live longer, which is also good. As long as your characters live, the fewer successions you have, and succession is the most dangerous time of the game in a regular rule set CK3 game, and even here in this hardest possible rule set, it's probably second compared to being attacked by a scourge conqueror. So all very helpful in terms of increasing your power and avoiding issues that could arise with too many successions, or not having enough gold, or not being sufficiently virtuous for your vassals. Certainly manage things from here. Don't really need more levies to destroy these peasants. They have absolutely no chance against us. Just have to chase them down. Assume this guy is... Yep, expansion movement. So certainly declare him the winner, as he rightfully was, and as the end of our peasant rebellion. Let's make sure that our Minister of War is increasing control. Inherited district. I think that's probably fine. We're about to increase our domain limit by 1 when we get to absolute control in the authority tree in martial lifestyle. Let's see, our tips say that we can station another regiment. I don't... Oh, because we just inherited that. Extra castle barony, so okay. Fortunately, it's in our worst county, the one that's of a different culture. Even though I talked about how long it's going to take to change the culture of this, I think let's go ahead and do it. Unlikely it will actually happen in this game. In this episode, probably have to play many more episodes before that happens, but whatever. Another quite nice crown. We have one currently that has even bigger bonuses to vassal opinion, so I think we'll keep that for now. We'll go with martial education since we're looking for a military strategist. I talked last episode that my general approach to exams is I'm happy to give out honors and give out more merit, give out exam advantages. It just gives me a bigger pool of people to choose from that have more merit. So merit, giving away merit is fine with me. Doesn't cost me anything. I suppose you could think that there's a strategy of restricting people outside your dynasty from getting merit, but don't really think it's worth being that kind of petty. Again, for this, I always go with the bottom one. Don't want everyone to lose merit. Get the prestige. Again, be nice, especially since being nice gives us lots of legitimacy. here, hand out plenty of merit. For this one, I like lifestyle experience, so usually pick the middle option. In this one, there are arguments for legitimacy, but I will go with the prestige. Nice. So I think we saw our first daughter got a 1-star stewardship education, which was quite surprising. And now we see this daughter gets a 5-star stewardship education, which is more what I would expect. Let's marry her to this guy, which would really reinforce the intelligence and physical traits there. Assume this guy is expansion movement, yes, so lose a little bit of legitimacy there to keep the expansion movement as the favored movement. So we get quite a bit of legitimacy. I think we'll probably completely fill out that trait. All of the martial trees before we move on. So zooming out here, looking at Hindustan, we can see looks like they are having a number of rebellions. Not terribly surprising. I can easily predict. I will be happy in 9 months to compound their problems, but we talked about before, don't want to break any truces before then. We will another feast to keep our vassals happy, make sure they don't get any thoughts of joining factions or rebelling against us as we prepare to fight Hindustan again. Just not getting any really good heirs in terms of the stats I want here. I think compassionate is better than honest. They're both virtues, but compassionate has a better stat gain. Honest is diplomacy +2, intrigue -4, so it's actually a net loss. And also being compassionate gives courtly and minority vassal opinions, so it's actually a relatively strong personality trait in terms of managing your vassals. So try to get him to become compassionate. Again, 1 prestige. He's my boy, so if things do go wrong for us, we're going to have another strong character to be our heir. Not sure how close this plague is. It is not close at all, so we don't have to worry about it. I will say now that we're not facing rebellions, there's not much reason for us to grant vassals to their rightful liege. That would just cost us money because then there'd be another layer of bureaucracy and taxes taking between the vassals and us. At least that's how it would work in a feudal or clan government. I assume it still works similarly in a celestial government, but maybe not. Guess we could give a few away and see what happens just to test this. So we're currently at 200.8. We actually went up to 200.9. That's quite odd. But yeah, I think okay. So it is certainly, okay, now it's dropping. All right. So, giving vassals works the same way as with other governments. You want to maximize your gold. You want to try to keep your vassals under you. This is the other son who's our ward. We went through this exact same decision earlier, so we will make him generous as well. Again, just think generous is better in this for a ruler. Just makes your vassals less likely to rebel against you, and so it's preferable to patient. Since generous gives a diplomacy gain and has benefits to direct benefits to increasing the opinion of some vassals. Okay, more legitimacy, more of all the good stuff. So it gives us an artifact, not a good one, but we'll take it anyway. Get closer and closer. I think let's go on a hunt. The hunt will take a while, but maybe let's not go on a hunt. I would like to get that boar, but it's within the area of the plague, so that's not good. Could go on falconry, which often gives a whole lot of prestige, which is good. And we can just travel a short distance to here, so I think that all works. Because we have the gold, we will maximize our hunt. Don't plan to do anything special on it, not murder or seduce anyone. Let's do a regular old hunt. Have some more friends, sure. Because there is an interesting question about, after I complete the martial tree, what tree do I want to do next? I think that armor is similar to the one we have, but let's check. It could be better. It's a little more prowess. Guess let's try it. I'm not sure what the math is on +2 knights versus +12 knight effectiveness for all knights. So we can develop our capital for the small amount of stress because of the modifiers we have. Moving very quickly through our lifestyle experience. Which means after this falconry event's done, we will be attacking Hindustan again. Whatever CVs we have. Another pretty good crown. Obviously, really more for taxes. So if we're into money troubles, we just switch crowns, and some of our vassals will pay us more. We should look to see what our building is going. Prove that. I usually don't commit adultery, so I don't want to lose a level of devotion. Have a secret, have someone get hooks on me. Generally, unless there's some really strong reasons, such as the woman has really good genetic traits and could have a bastard son that would really help advance our genetics program, I usually just pass on adultery. bit odd. These buildings are so underdeveloped. Again, been used to playing in 867 when this is some of the most developed and highest development, game stat development level on the planet. But here, obviously, that's not true yet. I think it would become true as time went on and we worked to make this a more powerful area, since it is going to be our long-term domain. So much like his father was stricken with cancer, now it looks like this character has cancer. So we're not going to do the bottom option. I guess the question is, do we take the risky treatment? Let's see here, how good is our palace physician? Hopefully he's excellent. Erudite scholar. He is a beardless eunuch himself. He's also a lunatic. That's not good. We'll just go with no more than necessary. So, unsurprisingly, cancer is a very severe penalty. Not much to be done about it. Talked earlier about, it didn't seem like it would be necessary to worry about an heir for this episode, at least. I think that's probably still true, but now a bit more of a concern than before. Again, I assume this is expansion. Yes, so we'll say he won. I think he in fact did legitimately win. What can we do to make this guy's life more miserable? Taking 2 counties is not it, hopefully. I'd like to take a lot more. That looks good. So, seize all de jure lands. If there's nothing else we can do that's even more powerful. I doubt there's going to be. Not sure it's really worth our time to go through all these individuals and their claims. We'll just check forced vassalization. I assume, yeah, prestige is just so massive. Obviously, they have a gigantic empire. We will go with seize all de jure lands. Probably have our army set up here and go through all this. That certainly seems like a good move. And again, these were the same way that the Cumans, the Khazars were the big bad of our Duke of Bohemia series, the last series we did. Also, the very first series on the channel. Looks like this time around the Hindustan, led by the gods Navids, has been the big bad, though its potency is greatly reduced at this point, and we will seek to make them even worse off, hopefully contribute to their collapse. Of course, you can see, at this point we have the siege benefits from engineered for destruction, and from sappers, and from being an exalted warlord, which further improves siege equipment. So we are just siege at extraordinarily fast rates. We've basically hit the same rate that a scourge conqueror sieges at. So not sure if Hindustan, the Ghaznavids, will even send their army our way. If they do, look forward to obliterating it. It should be a stack wipe. In the meantime, we will just win by sieging. Where these people are coming from and why they're trying to unsiege things I've already sieged, but we will emphatically tell them to stop that. duplicate, this kid and has two mid-tier genetic traits. Not necessarily bad. You get him married to a woman who has the beauty traits and intelligence, so that'd be very good. Again, want to push away tension. See, it's tension's building, but should still be a while before it becomes an issue. Swing the scales using influence because we have a ton of influence, and using influence is cheaper than anything else. Notification that our foreign minister is sending one of our military governors to help me. Don't need the help, but it doesn't hurt. Just checking where the baronies are in this county. Don't want to take unnecessary attrition. Want to take the entirety of the county first. Check to make sure that any plagues are not too close to our capital. Yeah, it's relatively far away, so not a concern. The plagues do contribute to tension and then eventually division, which is unfortunate. One of the issues with the Song Empire, it got hit by the Black Death. Even though it got through the Black Death relatively well, I think that was, each year was costing another 50 push toward tension. And obviously, eventually the Song hegemony divided, setting up the opportunity for this character's father to reunify China under his rule, and would hope that our dynasty would rule for as long as we keep playing. So another good war. Got a nice chunk of territory here. Got a enormous number of titles to hand out here. Okay. Go up to absolute control to get our control at maximum. See about holding Empire and King level titles ourselves. We may not be able to do that. The celestial government is clearly set up on the idea that you will not be holding all the king titles, that they'll instead be distributed. We'll be giving land away to our family members. Looks like we are running out of house members. Indeed, we are run out of house members we can give to. We'll still give to our other family members. They're likely to be more loyal to us. Of course, all this helps our legitimacy quite a bit as well, so that's all good. above our vassal limit, but as we talked about before, we have quite a few vassals we can grant their rightful liege. You know, these will be the holders of counties that de jure belong to duchies that have been created. So we might as well distribute enough of those to get under our vassal limit. You know, eventually, if we were to keep playing, we'd need to give away some of our king level titles. You know, again, that's the expectation for celestial government, so not really a big issue. Though it is more of a concern is how do we get rid of these other remaining titles. Assuming that we won't have enough dynasty members to give them away. Guess we'll just give them away one by one based on merit. I don't think he can actually hold it. So he could. We'll give it to this guy. Yeah, I think these family members are all maxed out in terms of their domain limit. So we'll turn this off and start giving them out by merit, which I guess is supposed to be what happens in China anyway. It's a bit unfortunate we can't grab the duchy title of this one to give all these away intact to someone, but it's what it is. We don't want to add any progress toward tension. We want to push away tension. If we had gotten strong there, that would have been nice in terms of countering the cancer to some extent. It's actually a relatively good grand tournament. I think let's head to it. Also give away more vassals to their rightful liege, so we are under our vassal limit. Being above your vassal limit quickly becomes very punishing. Okay. I think we'll do this tournament, and then I think from my perspective we can call it a campaign. Talk a little bit in the end about what we saw and learned here. And again, if anyone wants me to continue, just please leave a comment. If I get enough comments, enough people are interested in seeing our dynasty continue on, seeing what happens to Hindustan and the rest of the world, then happy to do that. Surprised. Okay, just more peasant rabble. Alright, well, don't need to really worry about them. Try to get a little bit of gold there. I think we just completed some buildings, so let's have some more in the works. Back to the tournament. With all of our prowess bonuses, we should do quite well here, but you never know. Alright, we won't do that to my brother. Try to maintain good relations with him. Archery. Again, really focusing on wanting to increase our score. Though if we have opportunities for renown, such as in the temple sometimes, like here, we'll take the renown first. I think I hear more people are asking to be ransomed, so we'll let them out. While we're outside the tournament, just check to make sure there are no serious factions. See if we can do anything to help our children here. Give him compassionate, hopefully. Study a language. Giving him a defender. Then we will go back into the tournament. Guess we'll pay out the money. Plenty of it, and rather avoid stress. good female knight. We will find her a spouse that is not a ruler. Make sure her spouse is a courtier or guest without a position, so he'll come to our court instead of her going to their court, and we would lose her, which is not good. Like before, one of the good things you can also get in the temple is this astronomer event, and there you go. It gives monthly lifestyle experience. It's extremely powerful, something I'm always looking for. And this character's life is going to be significantly shorter than would otherwise be because of the cancer, but hopefully he can have a strong heir that will be able to carry on. Again, ideally it would be an heir who is both genius and either beautiful or Herculean, but so far we simply have not gotten lucky on that. The way it goes sometimes. At least you see we've been developing a couple of good potential heirs over here. We have an open furniture slot at least, so definitely want to put our new wine tun in there. And so the question becomes, how are there seals we want to replace? I guess that's good. Get more taxes. Same here. Guess we get the renown from that. Have the new tapestry. Just not terribly useful, but do it anyway. Do have this plague that's actually getting closer to our capital. Surprise, we don't have antiquarian on automatic. Now we will. Same, we should really have cupbearer on automatic, which we do, but it didn't fill for some reason. Looks like Hindustan won one of its wars. I assume this war is not really that concerning. They do have a new ruler. Interesting. So, of course, what's interesting about a new ruler is that means that truces are off and we could attack him again. Let's see exactly what sort of attacks we could launch if we were so inclined. Checking the tips, always very helpful to check the tips so we could get some more de jure lands here. Not too much. Assuming it's still prohibitively expensive to completely vassalize him, and it is. So, okay, there's a bit of me that's tempted to fight him again, but I think this episode's gone on quite a bit. And so I think here we will be calling an end to this episode and to the entire campaign, as we are quite clearly the most powerful ruler on Earth. Admittedly, there are a few empires might have more territory, but none has the size and quality of troops that we do. So I'm satisfied that the challenging part of this campaign is over. So again, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these mechanics on the hardest possible difficulty settings of CK3. One of the things I said early on is that China is arguably the easiest place to play these hardest difficulty settings, and particularly Song in 1066. And the reason for that is the settings don't really affect as much the climb through the ranks of China. Your provinces are all temporary, so even if a Scourge conqueror were to attack China and take them from you, you could just be appointed someplace else. Your domain counties don't matter to you the same way they do for someone who's feudal or clan. And really the only, I shouldn't say the only time, but the time that it's most likely that these rule changes are going to affect you is when China divides, and then you, to become the Wang Di, are going to have to fight AI kingdoms that are significantly more powerful than on regular settings, because playing on very hard, they're going to have more gold, they're going to have cheaper men-at-arms, cheaper buildings, so their overall realms are going to be stronger. They also have much cheaper mercenaries and will very frequently hire mercenaries. The other concern is when China is divided, that's when if there's a nearby Scourge conqueror, either from Hindustan or very frequently from the Mongols up here, that they will come down and start conquering kingdoms and possibly get to 50% of China before you do. So really in the division era, there is a lot of impact from this rule set, but not otherwise. And so this can be a good entryway if you're thinking about playing this rule set and you enjoy playing China. China's a good option. And once again, I'd be very interested in seeing other people play this most challenging rule set. The reason I started recording these games is because I would look to find people playing, very hard Scourge Conquerors, Doomsday plagues with random unlimited Black Deaths, and very hard to find those videos. Very few videos where people play very hard. It's very challenging to try to find anyone who's playing with Scourge Conquerors, and the combination of all these things, I just cannot find that. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. I hope I'm providing some unique content for CK3 that you wouldn't see anyone else. Hope you join us for the next series. Please like and subscribe, and I greatly appreciate you watching. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.